Internet. I'm the Disney Brain, and today we're gonna talk about Megaforce. Yay. While Samurai was a complete bust of a season with lazy character arcs, a terribly conceived narrative throughline, and one of the worst villains ever, Megaforce started out with a bit of promise, at least during the original marketing. With the famous legendary battle footage highlighting the first look at the series, pretty much everything was hanging on that moment. And without a doubt, seeing all of those Rangers fight all at once should have been the single greatest scene ever captured by the franchise. But more on that later. And yet, for all the hype and for all the promise, Megaforce completely fails as a season. But that statement is an empty one without answering the questions of how and why to figure out what happened. So, without any further delay, let us finally slay this beast and be done with it. We'll begin our discussion by taking a closer look at Mega Mission, the series opener. And let's just start by saying that there's a major difference between referencing and blatantly ripping off. A new alien threat comes to Earth which awakens Hawaiian Zordon and Solar Panel Alpha. This leads to them assembling, who else, 5 teenagers, some of which have attitudes, and at least one of which is a doorknob. And right off the damn bat, this season finds a way to make no damn sense. Gosei literally states that he only awakened, now follow me on this one, because the Earth is faced with an extraordinary threat. Extraordinary threat, you say? Alright, okay, but just one question for you then.
Where were you when everything was falling apart?
So, you're telling me that you can't recall any time before now that the Earth could have used that legendary mega power of yours? Really? Really though? I mean, but who are we kidding? Astronema wasn't really a threat. She just wanted to destroy the planet you said you want to protect. But there was also that whole thing with your mentor being captured for the whole damn season. Oh, but I'm sure you were just getting around to it well before he had to sacrifice himself. Heavy sleeper Gosei only awakened when he sensed a threat on Earth. I think he missed a few. Making bootleg Zordon was bad enough, but throwing in the whole mentor thing only breaks continuity, or worse, makes Gosei personally responsible for everything bad that happened that could have been avoided because he was sleeping while freaking time was being torn apart. What the hell kind of Earth Guardian are you? And this is the first 10 minutes. By trying to copy Day of the Dumpster, they missed a pretty crucial element in the process, actually giving a damn. Zordon made it clear that he only rose up to assemble a team specifically to stop Rita Repulsa, who escaped. But Gosei's all like, nah bro, I'll chill until things get really bad. As in, worse than Venjix literally ending billions of lives bad? Is that not threat enough for your ass? Jesus Christ. Another dimension, yes, but Ranger powers still exist, which means Zordon and you probably still did too. This season has a ton of problems, but one of its biggest is that it completely half-asses its attempts to pander to the fandom, something that will be even more apparent in Super Megaforce. So, as expected, the team unites and stops the bad guys. Who are these people really? What drives them to fight? Why do these Warstar bugs specifically want to take them down? Your guess is as good as mine because the show doesn't care. Here's the thing about legacy seasons, guys. They actually have to make more sense than a normal one to make any sense at all. Megaforce seems to actually enjoy the idea of seeing how much crap they can get away with. Compare that to the great work done by the first legacy season in Dino Thunder, a well-designed antagonist similar to, but not a copy of Zed, Tommy coming back not just for fan service, but as a well-thought-out next step in his life as a teacher, doctor, and ranger mentor. And the White Ranger arc, again similar to, but not a carbon copy of Green with Evil. And most importantly, the characters actually have life to them, especially Kira, one of the most uniquely conceived Rangers of all time. The theme song literally says centuries combined, which could be seen as combining the 20th century face of the franchise with the 21st century current team to form one whole, and they get it right. This is usually the part of the analysis where I discuss how the characters of a particular season connect to the themes of that season. But, surprising a grand total of no one, Megaforce is lacking narratively too. There isn't a sliver of thought or challenge in any of these first 22 episodes, save one and only one. For as terrible as Megaforce proves to be, there are a couple of silver linings to be found, which we will of course discuss, but seeing as how Robo Knight is not one of them, we'll talk about him now. He's a robot designed to protect the Earth, who, just like Gosei, was fast asleep when the Earth could have really used a helping hand, and a sizable chunk of Megaforce involves the Rangers trying to convince him that they are on his side. Since he is a robot, literally programmed to do one thing, it really shouldn't be that hard for the Rangers to sway him. But since he's also built with this obnoxious standalone mentality that should in theory contradict with his defend the earth at all costs programming, this is the overarching story we get. And guess which character actually knows Robo Knight and does nothing to help? Never mind the emotional nuance of a Magna Defender. Never mind the heartbreaking backstory of one Ryan Mitchell. Never mind the well-developed gritty determination of an Eric Myers. Instead, let's just make this character a robotic tsundere. The whole endeavor came across like this. Since this story isn't really about anything at all, might as well have the same old spat with Robo Knight time and time and time again. It's tired, it's boring, it lacks any depth or dimension, and it develops no one. To say nothing of the fact that when he befriends a black kid, stay with me now, he exclusively learns urban slang and rap verses. Who the hell greenlit this? We already know that Robo Knight will eventually see the team as equals. He's not really a 6 Ranger, but he fills that same role. So it's all about the path getting there. There might have been something worth talking about if that path was rough, but mostly the path was just meh. Just a by-the-numbers, plain-as-paced, watered-down for the kiddies version of what other better seasons who gave half a crap delivered. They even force-fit a Robo Knight turns evil out of nowhere plot just for kicks, because why not? Just like most of the season, Robo Knight is just a knockoff of something a little bit more interesting. Now let's talk about the main 5, and we'll start with Gia Morin. Yeah, there's almost nothing to say about Gia Morin. I'm not gonna lie to you all and say that Gia being otherworldly attractive isn't a huge plus. It just is, and I can't really help that. But in a way, that actually adds to the problem. Gia is viewed as this tough, perfect tomboyish sort of girl, and that's it. She's never really anything more than that because she never once develops, even though developing Rangers who seem ideal at first is one of the more straightforward paths. Heck, even Samurai at least tried to do that. And the fact that her outward appearance is really the only thing I saw as noteworthy throughout the season is a perfect metaphor for just how shallow, hollow, and pointless this season really is. So Jake likes her. Who wouldn't be attracted to her is the better question, honestly, but who cares? They never do anything interesting with that plot point either. Remember how characters like Andros, for example, had feelings for Ashley, and it slowly opened up new sides to both of them? This is a legacy season, and it doesn't remember any of that, much less how to effectively execute it. Jake Hollings is not really too far removed from any of the other comic relief Rangers. He has his moments, and he's certainly a step up from Mike from Samurai, but again, there's really nothing to him. Why? Because he never really develops meaningfully either. Nothing about how Megaforce eventually resolves convinced me that he was a different character than when he started, and that's literally all there is to say about Jake. No, really, that's it. We're moving on. He's done. Bye, Jake. Emma also falls into the category of pleasing to look at. I know that's not real analysis by any means, but beyond that, she likes nature and taking pictures. She's sweet and caring as many Pink Rangers are, but once again, she's not much else. Which is kind of weird, right? I mean, these kids are teenagers, primed for major developments both socially and physically. These are the times that really shape people into who they'll be for the rest of their lives. But somehow, overcoming an evil insect army and the Armada barely changes anyone. It's actually mind-boggling just how much most of these characters completely lack development. It's also insulting, because a season without character growth has no business being a season. Samurai, for all of its misgivings, actually developed some of its villains. They actually attempted to challenge Jaden's standalone god complex, albeit to very mixed results. They actually gave Emily some much-needed depth, and they created a Gold Ranger that at times was entertaining. Megaforce is so inexplicably bad with its characters that I'm literally explaining why Samurai of all seasons does it better. It's not even necessary to bring up seasons like Lost Galaxy or Time Force, both masters in the art of Ranger character development. Megaforce isn't worth the comparison. Alright, getting back to the characters, who's up next? Oh, this guy. This guy. Oh, I'm gonna have some fun, y'all. I've been waiting for yo ass, Troy Burrows. I've been waiting. Let's go to work. Troy Burrows is one of the worst Rangers ever. His comically overplayed hero talk, his lack of a single interesting defining trait, and his complete aloofness towards anything resembling normal human interactions also gives him the distinct dishonor of challenging for the title of Worst Red Ranger ever, a title he might just win. Even Watch Mojo of all channels had enough sense to call him one of the worst Ranger characters. Not just Rangers, mind you, franchise characters. If I wanted another emotionally inept wannabe badass pretending to lead a team, I could just watch the vastly superior Mystic Force again. But even Nick Russell shows more depth in one episode than Troy Burrows shows through the entirety of his Red Ranger run. How is that even possible? When we talked about Time Force, I mentioned how Lucas was just kind of there, not really embracing a major theme. Troy is the epitome of just being there, a hollow husk of a Ranger to perfectly represent this hollow husk of a season. And because he's a Red Ranger, it's that much worse, because that role has given us some of the greatest of all time. He's not a character, he's just a face. He's not a leader, he's just a block of wood spouting out empty nothings because they sound heroic, not because any of it is inspired from who he is. Which, of course, nobody really knows because he never develops either. Less than bare minimum effort was put into his character, and the results speak for themselves. A dry, forgettable caricature that's about as captivating as a goldfish, but somehow with less energy. He only broke away from that character once, and... yeah, let's just make the easy joke and move on. Alright, now we can finally talk about the man who tried valiantly to save this season. Oh, wait, I forgot about Orion. Anyways, Noah Crawford is the only character in this season that gets an interesting arc. He gets 2 major focus episodes, which doesn't seem like a lot, but by Megaforce standards, it's the proverbial oasis in the sand. In going viral, this show takes Noah's character in the most sensible place you can. Because he's heavily invested in science, it's only natural that he wouldn't view himself as a prototypical superhero, so he doubts his own strength for a while before coming to terms with it. The execution is a little generic, but it works because of the interesting idea behind Noah's self-image contrasting with his Ranger image. That duality is almost never given too much focus in Power Rangers, but here it essentially allows him to consider a kind of Spider-Man-like internal dilemma. Noah's intelligence speaks for itself. He's smart enough to both adjust and create Ranger weapons, which would already make him the best Ranger on the team by default, even without his focus episodes. But then, the Blue Saber saga comes around and develops him further. He overcame his superhero identity crisis, and now he feels compelled to overcome a new challenge with his own strength. This was also a good place to take his character, because he's so defined by intelligence. So, putting him in a position where he feels like he has to rely on more traditional toughness falls right in line with him having already fully embraced being a hero. Noah Crawford is one of the best Blue Rangers ever because somehow, some way, despite the complete mess surrounding him, he managed to actually find himself a real character arc, one that allowed him to actually grow. If Megaforce was built completely around the narrative of overcoming challenges by embracing novel sides of you, we've probably got a season that really works thematically. This could have been framed as a legacy season where the Rangers really don't feel good enough for the task at hand, especially given the legends they have to follow. Legends that are literally scattered throughout the base, so they're always reminded of that. But then, they learn. They grow, and they discover new things about themselves. They uncover traits they never thought they had. Then, they come together as a team through that shared experience to take on the Armada alongside already fully developed Rangers to save the day. And if that happened, they would have earned the thank you they got from the Legends. But instead, it really feels like the Legends are just kind of being nice, doesn't it? Let's be honest, they certainly didn't need Megaforce to win the day, they were just kind of part of it. Plus, the Jungle Fury Rangers can summon Zords from their built-in animal spirits, so they could have easily done that if things had gotten really dire, even without access to any more Zords. Speaking of that legendary battle, now let's discuss why Super Megaforce being a better season also kind of makes it worse. The best thing, which is to say the only thing Super Megaforce has going for it, is fan service. Check out all of these cool suits from the good old days, and also the Sentai exclusive ones for some reason. Remember those days? Be distracted by remembering so you no longer pay attention to how shoddy and underdeveloped our characters are. Hey, how you doing? You like Casey? They ask. Well, sure, I love Casey, I respond. Well, here he is. Yay, it's Casey! I remember Casey's legendary season-spanning character arc, but... oh, wait, I'm still watching Megaforce, aren't I? So, will Jake and Emma actually meaningfully develop through this guest spot? No, that's what I thought. You almost had me, Megaforce. Almost. And oh, look, Big Daddy God Complex is back too, for no real reason whatsoever. Except, I guess, to remind us that, despite everything, he's a vastly superior Red Ranger compared to the one we're stuck with now. They even had the gall to mention Corinth, and then refused to bring back even a single RPM Ranger. They're so bad at fan service, they actually got worse at it over time. But here's the thing, I'm not at all opposed to fan service. It's the driving force behind why I think Super Megaforce is better than Megaforce. But here's the problem. Super Megaforce needed these cameos just to separate itself from the tedious slog of the first season. Nothing else about this show goes through any drastic improvements, or even just improvements, so the fan service, while exciting at times, feels a little bit gimmicky. It feels like this show is admitting to itself that it can't stand on its own merits, or in this case lack thereof, and chooses to blind us by forcing us to remember literally anything that isn't Megaforce. And for me, that was the dagger. That was really what made this season the worst of Power Rangers. They didn't give a damn in season 1, couldn't be bothered to tell the actors to even wake up before most shoots, and then they just threw in the towel and said, hey, look at this, look at him, we even got Jaden back, we're so desperate, please daddy, save us again, just one more time. But he couldn't. Nothing really could. These Rangers in name only saved the day, but they sure didn't earn the right to. All they ever did was faff around, beat up some monsters, and then faff around some more. Outside of Noah, nobody really grows, nobody really develops, nobody really learns. Heck, these guys barely change facial expressions. And in a way, it makes it all the more fitting that the legendary battle had to happen this season. In a season predicated on doing as little as possible until the promised end fight, it took Tommy and friends to finish what they started. Meanwhile, In Space was so captivating, they motivated normal civilians to stand up and fight for their planet. Leo, Carter, amongst many others, were ready to die to finish their final fights. Wes would have died saving the world if the others didn't go back for him. These Rangers and these teams faced down threats several times more daunting and better built up to than the whiny prince and his silly armada. When Megaforce was left on its own, it barely made an impact, and then they needed their hand held for a sizable chunk of Season 2. The legendary battle should have been the most epic episode in all of Power Rangers, but it really kind of wasn't, because it carried with it no narrative weight. It just happened because that's what Troy dreamed about one fine day. It is the epitome of empty fan service that doesn't add anything to Megaforce as a season other than to further marginalize a team that we're given no reason to care about to begin with. It's still a pretty good episode without context, but taking all of Megaforce's build-up into consideration, it should have been so much more. Everyone was going to watch the series finale anyways. No Ranger fan would be able to resist all of that, so why not take risks in the meantime? Even if you try to add layers and screw up like with Nick, it would still be a hell of a lot better than cruise controlling through episode after episode, feeling so self-assured of the eventual end that you forget to make the journey interesting. And to top it all off, there isn't a single villain worth mentioning because there's nothing to say about any of them. Megaforce is a lazy season, that much should be clear by now, but several of the decisions it actively makes break Ranger continuity to such a degree it's almost satirical, on top of being mind-numbingly plain or head-scratchingly stupid. At best, it's the most face value season of Rangers to date that only has two modes, bore you or pander to you. And at worst, it knows as much and does nothing noteworthy about it other than praying you forget what season you're watching. There isn't a single cameo that meaningfully builds the team as characters. There's only one character that develops at all, and both seasons are so barren and void of interesting topics that I am genuinely surprised I got as long a video as I did out of it. It couldn't even muster the effort to be playfully goofy like a lot of the older seasons were, and if not for Dino Charge swooping in to save the day as an overall very solid season, I'd be forced to call the Neo Saban era a complete train wreck. Now, this is the part of the analysis where I try to deliver some uplifting, positive final thoughts. Except I already talked about Noah, so I'm almost out of uplifting, positive thoughts. But I will say this. Even given my points against a lot of the fan service, I'm not going to deny that it was nice to have, even if just in the moment. It made me want to keep going, if only just to see who else they might bring back. In a way, it kind of worked because I forgot about how bad Megaforce really is, and instead focused on, hey, that's Casey. Casey's here. I'm happy now because Casey's here. It could have been so much better, which is a phrase I keep using, but a lot of it reaffirmed for me just how special this franchise can be at its best. Just how meaningful the characters are when done right. Just how awesome it was to see Wes, Leo, Carter, and Corona again, amongst many others. Megaforce reminded me that Power Rangers will never be perfect, but it will always be special to those of us who call ourselves fans. And maybe I'm just being hopeful here, but maybe, just maybe, that's the real reason behind why Super Megaforce exists. Because Earth's defenders didn't surrender. They're all here. They all came back. They saved the day again. And remembering to help civilians along the way, great detail to include. Because that's who you're fighting for. Am I giving Megaforce a bit of undue credit here? Probably, but come on, I railed against it enough and I'd much rather talk about what Rangers do right, which is why next time we discuss Rangers thematically, we'll shift our focus to a Legacy season done well and break down Dino Thunder. And I may do a top 10 Ranger villains list before that, or if not, then soon after. But until then, thanks for watching.